middle of filtering wine, so she may have to dart off here and there if work calls. So what happens during filtration? What's going on outside the wine lab there?
Well, hi, thanks for having me here tonight and for highlighting my wine as well. Nice to see you guys all, and hope you're having a fun time. I know I am. Filtering is a huge part of the winemaking process, and sometimes it just takes longer than expected. So yeah, well, here I was. It actually worked out well that I was going to be at work late tonight to join you guys, that I got to be the one to watch the end of the filtration. So yeah, sometimes it's me, sometimes it's my assistant staying late, but it's basically the action of removing different colloids in the wine, different things that cause clouding in the wine, basically, that you want to provide some clarity. It's really a visual thing, and it's also a stability practice too, because if you don't filter your wine all the way to sterile filtration, we call it, where you're removing all the residual yeast and bacteria in the wine, then once you put it in the bottle, if you have any residual sugar left, the yeast will start consuming. So that's one of the reasons you want to get to sterile, and other reasons is for clarity and stability. So yeah, I'm sure a lot of you have had unfiltered wines before. It's a tricky business to be in as a winemaker, but to produce an unfiltered wine, because everybody expects it to be super clear and free of debris, and so when you get into the unfiltered side, you deal with the other side of that, where you've got some cloudiness and such. But sometimes filtration, they say, can sometimes strip the wine, so that's why some people do the unfiltered version to retain all the beautiful aromas and harmony of a wine. So
are you filtering red wines or white wines? Or
right now I'm filtering white wine. We're doing a pre-bottling filtration, so I've got bottling next week, and I'm filtering the Riesling and Pinot Grigio right now. So yeah,
fantastic. Those are both great summer wines, so we're looking forward to having those.
Same with the rosé.
To introduce so many people who have confessed right up front that they haven't been to the Epic wine region. So Sprucewood Shores, tell us what your property is like, and it's been in the family for generations.
Yeah, I'm proud to say that I think we have one of the most beautiful properties in Ontario as a winery to visit, because we're on the beach. We have beachfront. That's amazing. Like, really hard to find that. Really, truly, we're very lucky to have that. People love to visit because of that. We have a picnic basket, lunches. Of course, the wine's great, right? But it's just, yeah, it's a great spot. We've got a beautiful landscape property with ponds and lots of wildlife around here too. We're on the migration path, and so there's quite a lot of, we've got right next door to us, we have a marsh, so there's a lot of different wildlife that come through. So it's kind of interesting when you're out having a glass of wine on the beach, you can see, turtles come by, or herons, or fish flopping out of the water. Like, it's there's always something going on. And me and my kids found some baby turtles the other day. It was super fun. So yeah, it's a family business. My kids get to come here to work with me sometimes. They're 6 and 4, so they're not really working. They're more just like, wow, mommy, what is going on? And I've given them little tastes, and they really like wine. So not too much, of course. And it's been the business for 40 years now. So my parents bought this property 50 years ago, and they planted the vines close to 35 years ago. And I've been making wine now for 18 years here. And I work with my 2 brothers closely. We're still running the business together. It's a true family affair.
That's fantastic. And one time you and I were chatting on the phone, and you were telling me how you just love making Cabernet Sauvignon. Is there any Cabernet Sauvignon in this one?
Actually, no. This one is Cabernet Franc and Merlot. Yeah, I actually did not.
That's an interesting blend. How did that?
Yeah. No, it's a great. Actually, I think you can make rosé from any red wine. To be perfectly honest, I think it really can be made from a lot of different wines. However, my favorite is Cab Franc to make it out of. It's that really nice cherry aroma, but this one actually came out more of a strawberry, like cotton candy with this one. It's like so fruit forward. Just bounces out of the glass with strawberry aromas. New yeast I've been using the last few years has been very successful in enhancing that strawberry fruit. And yeah, no, I think Merlot and Cab Franc are great varieties. It's actually made from optically sorted fruit. So I often make my rosé a blend of varieties and a blend of different varieties that I'm bringing in. So I usually have about 4 or 5 different red varieties I carry, and we do a lot of optical sorting, and we also do a lot of like short skin contacting and pressing up. But often with rosé, I usually do it in a method where I'm bleeding a tank so that I can enhance the quality of the red wine I'm making by taking some of the juice out and creating a more concentrated fermentation and concentrated skin contact on the red. And then the rosé is a beautiful product of that too. So yeah, I love this. It's a great summer sipper, of course. Everybody says it about rosé. Everyone's got the same kind of spiel, but it's true. Rosé is a wonderful summer drink. This one I pair with smoked salmon, actually. I think it goes fantastic with smoked salmon and potato salad. It's really good with spicy food, like I've heard a lot tonight, in charcuterie boards. It's a popular wine for our weddings, for cocktails and appetizers. So yeah, it's a good summer sipper for sure.
That's fantastic. Well, you've certainly got a couple of people who have been marking on the board that they're now big fans of your wine. We do have a question that I'm curious about too, but what is optical sorting? You mentioned that very quickly, as if we all should know what it is.
Yeah.
So, educate us a little bit, would you?
Yeah, for sure. It's just the action of sorting the grapes from the good grapes from the bad grapes, using optical sorting techniques. So the cameras and as well as mechanical separation. And it basically takes out like stems and leaves from the grapes, as well as separating, like sometimes it can go so far as separating out like green skins if you've separated the not green skins and green seeds is what I meant to say, but both, mainly green is what it takes out. Because as you know, growing any kind of vegetable or fruit, there's always going to be variability in your fruit that comes out of anything, out of any vine or tree. And so when you pick, it can separate the fruit out. And now I don't, instead of taking that bad fruit and now I've got fruit that I can't make a red wine with, I can make a wonderful rosé with. So I do some optical sorting, and I also do some bleeding, right, which is the one I mentioned earlier, where I just take the juice right from the whole vat of grapes. So it's sort of just a mix of different techniques. And I usually separate them as I ferment them, and there's separate techniques and there's separate tanks. And then when we get close to bottling, I'll make the blend, which is, you know, going through what I like of each tank and what ratio of each tank I like together to make the blend that I have in bottle now.
So for those of us who have learned a little bit about winemaking, you look very official being right in the lab and all the beakers and behind you there. Can you just tell us a little bit about the difference between making rosé wine versus red wine? I understand it has to do with just a couple of days in terms of the skin contact.
Yes, it's got a lot to do with the skin contact. That's right. So rosé, Sherry spoke really well to the different methods that rosé can be produced, and it's really cool to hear that, actually. Thanks, Sherry. And the way I do it is different. It sounds like they have 3 different styles that they do it in, and this one is one of the styles. I think the one that you're highlighting today, Sherry, that it's made in that you know, bleeding from the tank and everything else. But the red wine is fermented on the skins typically 3 to, I don't know, the sky's the limit with some winemakers, but 3 days to the average is 7, that you'll basically ferment it until you get the color that you want and the tannin level that you want out of the skins. And so that's what makes the reds more robust and darker color, is it comes from the skins of the grape. Where a red wine, rosé, like Sherry mentioned, the juice is usually clear and it sits on the skins for a short time just to pick up a bit of the color. And then you press it off or you bleed it out or whatever method you use, and then you ferment it. And sometimes the winemaker can even influence the color pre-bottling by back blending in a bit of rosé just to get, a bit of red that highlight the color a little bit more if they choose to. It's all up to the winemaker's discretion of how they want to present their rosé. I know I usually don't, but I have done a little bit where I've added like 2% of the red back in, but the red can really influence the fruitiness of the rosé. So you got to be careful with the blend as well. If you're trying to influence the color, you could also really greatly influence the style of the wine you're making. So, yeah.
And does it vary each year in terms of the punch up of pink that you use for your rosé, or do you try to have a consistent color?
It's hard to be consistent, I'd say, especially with the way I do it. I don't use the same varietal in our rosé every year. So I wouldn't say I'm 100% consistent in it, no, but I definitely like to lean towards a more pink than like salmon and light colors, but it is hard to achieve the perfect color. And it's, you don't always see, you look at it in a glass, and you're like, that looks really nice. And then you get it in a bottle and it's like, oh, wow, like it's really changed in the bottle versus just in the glass. So you always got to look at both. But yeah, no, I like the color of this one. It's pretty dark for a rosé. There's a lot lighter ones out there, that's for sure. This one does not have blend any more color into this.
With the 6 that we selected, it does have a real range of hues of pink. And when you go into the LCBO, especially, you see right at this time of the year, is just like every color of pink under the rainbow is right there for it. It's beautiful. And I love the artistry of it. And you talked about it as being inconsistent year after year. That's wonderful. It's not a recipe and this is the way it's going to be. It is you showing off your talent and also showing off your vineyard. Yeah, and it's a tough line to draw there because, you know, when you make wine to sell, let's say in the LCBO is a perfect example, and you know, people do expect more consistency there, of course, than if they were coming into the winery and trying the wine and buying as they please. But you know, and you're just buying something blindly off the shelf, you want consistency as well. So it is a bit tricky as a smaller producer to have that consistent product every year over year. But yeah, but it is certainly a goal of every winemaker. I think once they've hit like a recipe that works, they really want to try to maintain that as well. But I always feel like I'm always growing with the wine. So yeah, can't help That's a really good way of putting it.
Yeah.
Always growing with the wine. Thank you, Tanya. Thanks for making such a delicious rosé and introducing us to Epic. Wow, you have a beach on site. I'm bringing a picnic basket and making sure that on my road trip, we'll be bringing back lots of this. For those of you who have been to a number of our Savvy virtual events, we have showcased your Cab Sauv, which you are absolutely famous for. At I think it was our fondue event, we also had you showcased for your Chardonnay. Oh my God. Anybody who likes a big bold Chardonnay, you hit it right on the head with, awesome. What is it called? Hawks Reserve.
Yeah, the Hawks Reserve. That's the migration path I was talking about. Yep.
Awesome. So keep up the great work. You're truly a hidden gem, and we will all be flocking to come visit you as soon as we can.